Hello, everyone.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm Jeff.
I'm Jason.
And guess what we're going to talk about today?
Today we're going to talk about true bypass on pedals. The ever coveted true bypass. Is it true bypass?
Okay, so you realize that if we talk at all about this, at any length at all, like the next couple words out of our mouth will offend somebody.
It's probably true.
So, I'm really looking forward to offending the crap out of you right now.
Just rip the Band-Aid off, man.
So, what is true bypass? Let's go gentle into this.
Go gentle. What is true bypass?
Yeah,
well, my understanding of true bypass would be in a pedal sense.
Yeah.
Is signal when normal goes through effect, comes out, you turn the pedal off, and it takes it completely out of the effect, so that it is not running through the effect, even though the button's on or off. It's the effect, right? I mean, that's the principle. It separates the signal chain's not running through the effect anymore, so you're getting your straight cable sound without running through the board, even though the board would be off in the sense of its functioning. It's not running through any other stuff. Is that general purpose correct?
Let's agree that is.
Because I mean, when I put a true bypass in a crybaby, that's what you're doing. Yeah. You're literally taking in and out of your line path. You know, like a looper pedal, essentially. You're putting a little looper pedal in your pedal. You're taking it in and out of line, Okay.
Now.
So, that's my understanding, but technically.
So, no, you are correct, right? And that is what it is. There are advantages and disadvantages to true bypass. Number one, I hear a lot of people say, I would never play that pedal. That pedal's not true bypass.
Right.
I have never purchased a pedal based on the way it sounds when it's off.
Yeah, neither have I. Right? Never.
If it sounds good, buy it.
It sounds good, yeah.
Right?
It sounds good.
Good is good.
Yes.
Now, the thing that people need to understand is why would you ever want a true bypass pedal? And is it a requirement for good tone?
Gotcha. I'm going to say no, it's not a requirement, but...
Well, number one, a true bypass pedal is only true bypass when the pedal's off.
Right. When it's on.
The rest of the time, it's doing what it does,
exactly.
and you're passing through it.
Right, exactly.
So that doesn't mean that it sounds good when it does its job. Right. So number one, don't ever buy a pedal based on the fact that it's true bypass or not true bypass. I would say that the situation is more a situation of where do you put your pedal order based on true bypass versus non-true bypass.
Oh, okay.
So let's go with two things. There's really two things when it comes to guitar pedals. Number one, if your cable is too long between your guitar and your amplifier, what happens?
You start to lose signal.
You start to lose signal, you start to lose high-end frequencies.
Exactly, yeah.
The thing that most people don't think about is if I have Jason's guitar, he's on stage. He's got, say, a 20-foot guitar cable going between his guitar and his pedal board.
Yes.
On his pedal board, he's got 10 pedals. Each of them has a 6 or 10-inch cable and a bunch of other things. Let's say he's got 10 foot of cable on there.
Oh, right, because all the patch cables and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So if everything is true bypass...
Hopefully it's less than that, but yes.
Well, let's call it 10 feet for easy math.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. You're a math guy, but I'm going to keep it easy for...
I'm not that good of a math guy, but I hear you saying that.
He just likes big numbers, right? And don't we all in our bank account? So... I don't know what that's like.
Wait a minute, I've never experienced that. So
the biggest number you would like if you could experience it.
Right. So you have more cable there.
Right. So if you've got 20 foot of guitar cable going from your guitar to your pedal board, on your pedal board you got 5 to 10 foot of cable between pedals when they're in true bypass and they're off. Right.
Everything off. You're still running all that distance of the cable.
And then you've got another cable that goes to your amplifier. Let's call it 20 foot.
It usually is. Yeah.
So right now we're talking about 50 feet of cable.
Right. Yeah.
Is that going to roll off your signal? A hell
Just
of a lot.
A little bit. Yeah. No.
So then what is the big hoopla about true bypass?
Okay.
Right. The big hoopla about true bypass really comes into the fact you have buffered pedals and true bypass pedals.
Right. Okay.
True bypass is one of those terms that just sounds like it should be the fantastic thing that we should all do. It's true, right? So it's not a lie, it's true, right? So, I almost think that we should refer to a true buffered and true bypass.
Oh, there you go, true buffered and true bypass.
Give it a positive spin on it,
there
right?
You go. Yeah.
In general, we're going to get to this in a second.
Okay.
The reason you would ever want true bypass pedals, 99% of the time, is the word fuzz. Yes. A fuzz pedal.
That's kind of where it started, I think.
Yeah. If you don't have a fuzz pedal, you don't need true bypass.
And generally not, huh? I mean...
Just you don't. No. Right? So let's take fuzz pedals and put them off in the corner for a second. So, if you are Jason running 20 foot of cable from his guitar, 5 or 10 foot of cable on his pedal board.
Right.
All true bypass, and then another 20 foot to his cable. He's got 45 to 50 foot of cable.
Right.
He's losing all kinds of signal strength. He's using all kinds of level.
Right.
He's rolling off all his high frequencies. Right. So it's dark, it's woolly, it's like, right? Who wants that? How do you fix that? You use a buffered pedal.
Gotcha. Okay.
The traditional, like a Boss TU3.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is a buffer pedal.
Right.
Right. It is a tuner. It's the perfect thing to put at the input of your pedal board. Mm-hmm. It acts almost like, for lack of a better description, let's just say it acts like a balanced guitar microphone cable.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Right.
Not exactly.
But yeah, it's essentially the outcome is kind of the same thing. Yeah.
It's like it cleans up any noise. Right. It gets everything up to the right level.
Evens it out, brings it up. Yeah.
Everything's all fixed. Yeah. So, regardless of this 45, 50 foot of cable that you want, if you stick one buffered pedal, you now have normalized it, fixed the signal between your guitar and stuff, you've lost all this high-end loss.
Yeah, and then at that point, it would be almost like starting again. So now you have 20 foot to that buffer thing, but from that buffer thing, it's only 20 feet. You're not getting that.
Yes.
Or 30, 45, whatever.
And it's not a pickup, which is capacitive, which is losing. It,
right.
So it doesn't lose past that.
Exactly. Right. I got you.
Right, so you don't need that. So now, why would we actually want a true bypass pedal?
Okay.
Fuzz.
Fuzz pedals.
Fuzz pedals, in general, especially classic old ones.
It's crybabies, I think. Not cry. I mean, a fuzz face is kind of where it started out.
Yeah. Well,
fuzz face.
Well, here's the perfect problem. If I put a crybaby in front of a fuzz face, the fuzz face doesn't act the same as if it was plugged into my guitar.
Right. Gotcha.
Right, and that's what's happened.
Right.
Is the reason you would want true bypass is because that fuzz pedal is responding to the impedance of your guitar.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. It's responding to when you roll your volume off. It's responding to the actual impedance of your guitar. If my guitar I'm using 9.5K pickups and he's using 7.5, they're actually related. It's like part of the same circuit.
Right.
They're friends or enemies.
Right, exactly. Right? Yeah, exactly.
So if I stick any pedal in between, they are now different. Now, I'm going to give you I'm going to like totally see if we can hopefully not anger you. Because it's such a hot button and has been for years. Right. It's not as bad lately. In the past 3 to 5 years, it's mellowed. But like 5-10 years ago, it was like oh my god, if it's not true bypass, then your children are going to be born with 3 eyes, right? It's like what? But nowadays it's definitely tamed out more. But I wanted to kind of explain this, right? So in general, if you have a classic fuzz pedal, you're going to be better off if you run guitar, fuzz pedal, then stuff, right?
Right.
You can put a true bypass pedal after that, and have everything true bypass. But now you still, when it's off, have this 45.
Right. You still back to your length thing, right? Yeah.
So you've lost all your high end in order to have this true bypass. So if you're going to do that, you probably, in most scenarios, are going to be best off if it's guitar, fuzz pedal, then like a Boss TU3,
like a tuner, right? Exactly. Something
tuner,
like that. Then
something with the buffer.
Because that brings it. You've lost, but now fix it. Yeah, exactly.
And then go on.
Right.
Now, here's where I don't particularly love fuzz pedals for. I love fuzz pedals. But where I don't particularly love them is that if you were to think of the same thing with true bypass, let's imagine that I had 3 pedals.
Okay.
I got a guitar, I got an amp, I got 3 pedals in between.
Okay.
The first pedal is an EQ pedal, everything set flat, and it's true bypass.
Okay.
The second pedal is a fuzz pedal.
Okay.
Third pedal is a EQ pedal also.
Okay.
All set totally flat.
Okay.
So, frequency response, exactly the same on or off. Gain, exactly the on or off.
Right, I see what you're saying.
But that fuzz pedal,
right,
because when they're off, is responding to the guitar, sounds one way. Now, if I turn them both on...
The EQ pedals?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Even though they're not doing anything,
right,
they're set totally fucking flat, right? When I turn them both on, that fuzz pedal now sounds different
Gotcha.
than if it did with your guitar.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
So here's the complex thing that we get into with true bypass versus non-true bypass. It's like, so yes, it does work more authentic to have your guitar plugged straight into the fuzz pedal. And that's an experience, and it's perfect then. But if you were to try and put any other pedals with it, anytime those pedals are on and not in their true bypass state,
right,
they are now also changing the fuzz pedal.
Oh, right.
So are you better off, and this is where the complex things comes in, are you better off to have, when everything's off and just my fuzz pedal, just my guitar,
right,
I get one sound.
Okay. And then once you kick something else, then everything changes.
But as soon as you turn on that not doing anything EQ pedal,
right.
Your fuzz pedal doesn't sound the same anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Or are you better off putting it after something that is buffered, so that that at least it does the same thing every time?
Right. See, that's the argument. And I've gotten so many, not arguments, whatever, discussions, whatever, arguments. A lot of times.
Oh, it's definitely a debate, right?
Debates. We'll go debate.
I think it would be safer to talk politics with family than talk true bypass with our friends.
Really. Right? Because there's that thing too, because that falls in line with pedal order, obviously, and what you're going to put where, because there's that argument of like, I think we mentioned in the pedal thing, is, is your amp gained out, or are you getting your gain from your pedals?
Yes.
So that comes down to where do you put your gain pedal then, like you said, because now in front, complete reaction if you put it behind something with the buffer in it. So,
yes. Right. Yeah. So my concern is always this. It's like, if I have a fuzz pedal, I kind of have to put it where it wants to be, which is between me and my guitar.
Okay.
If I want to put my wah in front of it,
right,
when my wah is on, it does one thing. When my wah is off, it does another thing.
Right.
So you very quickly get into this, like, yes, true bypass works perfectly when I'm just using that one scenario. But very easily, it's now yet a third option. Right? It's like I could be all buffered, I could be all true bypass and everything's off, or I could be all true bypass, but when these two pedals are on, I set that fuzz pedal sounds this way. When these two pedals are on, it says my fuzz pedal sounds that way. When these two fuzz pedals are on, it sounds this way.
Which could be multiple, if you're into your ring, it could be a chain tone thing for sure.
Right. But in general, if you're just using, like, I'm using some good overdrive pedals, I'm using some good, distortion, overdrive, distortion pedals.
Right, sure.
It's not going to affect, right? True bypass isn't going to make any benefit for you.
Right.
If in fact, I would argue that the 45, 50 foot of cable is more of a detriment than any buffer.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. I think so, 100%.
Right.
I think so. I mean, for me, when it comes down to pedal boards, for me, it's always a tuner first, and there's always something at the end that's buffered as well.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that it just leaves, it goes in and leaves.
It goes in, goes out, and it's all happy, right?
Yeah, because that way, that all goes out the window. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. You don't have to think about it.
So
sleep up at night worrying about your bypassed or not trues.
Yes.
And Crybabies were the next one too. That took off too. True bypass and Crybabies too is another thing. Too. Same situation though.
Same situation.
Yeah, it's going to be more reactive or not reactive. And
you want your Crybaby when it's off not to be screwing up your fuzz pedal, because you would probably like to put your
fuzz pedal. Exactly.
It's like so. Once again, we're all down to this fuzz pedal.
Yeah, it kind of comes down that way.
So first off, unless you don't use a fuzz pedal,
don't use a fuzz, exactly. Right? Then that's kind of moot at that point.
True bypass versus non-true bypass.
Yeah, I see a lot of unless they're really not making any kind of buffered circuits, if they're making real simple circuits and stuff. But there's a lot of modern companies too that do that fuzz pedal effect thing where they make a simple circuit and put it. But there's some people that make fancy pedals that don't need the true bypass, but they put the true bypass in anyway.
A lot of companies do.
Like a buffer pedal with a true bypass. Like,
yes.
It's like
like we were talking earlier, I had this one artist who I was speaking with last week.
Yeah.
Right, very famous guitar player, right? And he's asked me about a pedal, and he's like, I know it's not true bypass, but this is better. And I just wanted to go, it's not true bypass. So what?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's like,
what you're trying to do, this is fine, right? Don't right? So the biggest thing is, do not get stressed out about it.
Yeah, right? It's not a thing you're not gonna be hip if there isn't true bypass. It's it's not a thing.
It's not.
It really isn't. And it's all about how you set your pedal board up and what reactions you want with your gear. That's what it comes down to.
If it sounds good, it is good.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Start there.
Sounds good, it's good, exactly.
And in general, the reason you want it is because of that fuzz pedal, but it only sounds different this way or different this way depending if there is a pedal in front of it.
Right.
Right? And so just play with that, because it's like, dude, set up your pedals the way you want, and if you're happy with them, be happy, right?
Yeah, be stoked.
All right.
I mean,
if you're having some issue, it's like I really like my fuzz pedal, but when I stick this wah in front of it or this phase 90 in front of it,
then that's when you.
When I turn it on, it screws up my fuzz pedal. Well, that's what's going on, right? It's an interaction with that because it's stopping that link between the guitar pickup and the fuzz pedal. Mm-hmm. But it's always going to do that if it's on.
Yes.
Here's the funny thing. True bypass only affects you if it's
on. Oh, it's off. I mean, if it's on, it's going to do what it's going to do. Right. When it's off, that's the only.
So it's like I've got 3 pedals before my fuzz and my guitar. If they're all off.
Wait, really quick. Now let's go back to that fuzz pedal for a minute.
Oh.
Okay, and what about if there's no true bypass on the fuzz pedal?
In front of the pedal?
There's no true bypass. We just put the fuzz pedal. What's the effects? Like, what's your differences? Volume drops? What happened? You know what I mean? Like, what's the, if, you know what I mean? Like, the differences being that when you do hit the true bypass on the pedal instance, if it didn't have true bypass, what's the difference?
Oh, so if there is a pedal in front of it, let's take the example I gave earlier, which is I'm going to put a EQ pedal.
Yeah, right, EQ. Yes, exactly.
It's got no gain.
Right.
It's set completely frequency flat.
Right.
For the most part, it is non-existent versus on versus off.
Yeah, like before.
What you're going to find is several things. Number one, when you roll down your volume, the fuzz pedal is going to act a little bit differently.
Okay.
You're going to notice a little bit of a high-end frequency difference in the fuzz, right? A bit there, right? But other than that...
But what about if that pedal wasn't true bypass and you're just turning it on and off? What's the effect of happening when it's not true bypass and you turn it off?
Oh, nothing.
Okay, so it's just running through the circuit, but really nothing's changed.
Yeah, it's like some of the companies...
You're just getting length.
Yeah.
Wire length,
yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, you'll lose high frequencies because of the extra capacitance from the cable from length. But for the most part, most of the companies that do any kind of buffering system, some of them are a little bit better than others, but for the most part, they're all pretty fantastic.
Kind of I was going to say, it's all kind of been solidified for a pedal buffer.
It's like,
unless you're doing a Pete Cornish thing where he's making you a custom tube buffer for your pedal board, like, geez, I mean, that's awesome, but gnarly. You don't... Well, it's like, over the top. Most things would be generically the way they are. I mean, most pedals are the same.
Well, here's the funny thing: is that like what we like as guitar players are harmonics, right?
Right.
In general, let's take this Dimension C, which happens to be right here. This thing is a buffered bypass.
Right. Yes.
But it uses a FET circuit.
Okay.
So what do some people use as an amplifier?
Oh, that's
a FET circuit.
Gotcha.
So we spend extra to buy FET things to add that FET sound to stuff, but when we call it a buffer, we're like, no.
Gotcha, yeah,
but if we call it a boost, we're like, yay, right?
Right,
it's the same
that's
thing.
Funny.
It adds a little bit of second harmonic on top of it.
I gotcha.
And there you go.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it musical? Yes. Right? Get over it.
Right? I gotcha.
Right? So it's pretty funny. It's like, depending on what we call it, you're either like, oh no, I won't touch that, or please give me more.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's FET based, right? And you guys see lots of different FET preamps out there that are based and stuff, right? And it's like that's a completely fine, acceptable way to get your sound, right? I would say that something like this, the fact that it doesn't go kunk every time you turn it on because it is buffered, can be hugely advantageous depending on your band.
It's true, yeah. But God, the worst thing is in like a nice dynamic mellow, whatever he's down, but you're gonna come in with a cool solo, do something, you kick something, you just hear that at the beginning of it, you're just like, oh yeah, that's tasty.
And then your delays after it.
It's like,
right.
Yeah.
So true bypass pedals.
Things to consider.
Things to consider is that generally most true bypass pedals go ka-chunk when you turn them on the audio path. Right? There's a DC offset, it breaks the waveform, and then therefore it makes a big chunk, right? Which can be very unpleasant in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Right. So buffered pedals like this, or like a take a tube screamer, they're buffered.
Exactly.
Same type of thing. Right. So buffered pedals generally will not do that. Also, if you have a true bypass pedal, and too much cable, like that 20-foot cable, then 510 on your board, and then you might be darker when it's off and in true bypass.
Right.
And then when because you've turn that EQ pedal on, now you get your high end. So you have to balance out the...
Yeah, you're right. Cable length. Yeah, what your tone bypass with effects in, what's changing. How you're going to compensate.
Right. We always forget it because we're usually turning on a chorus or a delay or something like that has some other sound effect.
Right. But so if you're losing, you may be losing it, but you don't realize it because
that's why I talk about like the straight EQ pedal.
Right.
Because if you just had a straight EQ pedal, what happens when I turn it off? Well, if it's true bypass, that fuzz pedal now works one way. If
Right.
it's on, then
works
the true it works the other way.
Yeah.
If everything else is true bypass, I don't have a fuzz pedal, but when it's off, I've got basically 45, 50 foot of cable, but now I turn it on, now it's
right.
compensating for it. So now all of a sudden, just turning the EQ pedal on, that's set completely fat, no gain, no nothing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everything got brighter again.
Yeah.
Or it's like, do you really want your pedal board jumping around like this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right?
So that is part of the. I guess that is where a little bit of the knowing how to set up a pedal board might work, meaning understanding a bit of the pedals of how they work. Meaning, if you're doing pedal boards to understand, this is true bypass, I should put this here because that's going to affect this, kind of thing.
Right.
So, but other than that, it does not have tos or not tos. It just be aware of that it's going to shift your sound.
Yeah,
that's what it really comes down to. Whether it's good or bad, it's not good or bad. It's just going to change, and you have to figure out what change you want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or just don't worry about it. Right.
Well, there's that.
There is the shut up and play approach, which is like did Hendrix go out and pick out the right pedal and true bypass for? No. He went out and bought what was available. Yeah. Did Jimmy Page? No. Yeah. Right nowadays we have 300 different. Just in there was an article like 4 or 5 years ago. I think was it Guitar Player magazine that named over 2,000 companies that currently make a distortion or overdrive pedal.
Oh my God.
Boutique companies and stuff like that, which is amazing because there's only like 3 circuits.
Right, yeah, it's the simplest.
So it's really 2,000 different versions of salt and pepper.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Well, there's pink salt, there's,
Yeah, but it's
salt,
like, here's a piece of steak. Yeah. And it could be saltier or peppery or saltier and peppery.
Yeah. We'll have to do a show on the different types of gain pedals and stuff, the distortion, overdrive, and fuzz.
Yeah,
the way that just to function out. We'll do a thing on that.
Yeah, which we were. Yeah, and that's a whole fun thing because I obviously a better chef is a better chef.
Of course,
right. Yeah. And we both love food, so that's true. Yes. But in general, you can't change a steak.
Right, yeah. Steak
we're either having steak, we're having lobster, or or pizza.
Yeah.
But
they are what they are, but the variations of what you can do to them change.
Yeah, and when it comes down to all the boutique companies, it's essentially you're buying the steak flavored this way.
Yeah.
Cooked by this chef.
And it's fun to have those flavors though.
Flavors,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got probably a dozen overdrive pedals for sure, distortion pedals.
Yeah, and if we took them apart and drew them up as a schematic, it'd be like they're pretty close, physically the same, right? It just right. So that's a whole other episode that we can get into, which is overselling your boutiques.
But true bypass, man.
So true bypass.
It's a thing.
I hope I didn't offend you too much.
Oh, yeah, we're not that offensive.
Are we offensive? Maybe. Right. So everyone at home, right? When it comes to true bypass,
10 times fast.
Right.
It's a test.
It's really not a right or wrong scenario. No. There is true buffered. And there is true bypass. Both are true scenarios which you might want to be part of.
Yes.
Right?
That's it.
True buffered.
We're changing that. It's
true buffering.
Pass it along. It's true buffering or true bypass. That's it.
Yeah.
Because that is really what's happening.
Yeah. And depending on your scenario, one of them will, on a piece of paper, on a graph, on a frequency chart, maybe look better. But the truth is, how does it sound to you? Don't freak out. If it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like just enjoy what you're doing, and don't, as I said earlier, I've never purchased a pedal by the way it sounded when it was off.
Exactly, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Don't buy your pedals.
I want to remember that
one. Right? Boutique or otherwise, because they're true bypass, because you're buying it when it's
on,
not when it's off. Right. So please buy your pedal the way it sounds when it's on. Right. And if it happens to be that when it's off it is screwing up your tone, there are other solutions that you can deal with, right? It's rare that you need to do anything like that, but if in the event that in the off position it is screwing with your stuff, there are loops and other things that you can get into.
Yeah, there's ways to get around it for sure, but boys, don't be discouraged by the hype of it, true bypass being a thing. Placements, try it. All over the board. Experiment. That's what it comes down to. Find the sound. You might do something that other people be like, dude, what are you doing? You're like, are you kidding me? This sounds amazing. And it could.
So, and that's a whole other episode we can get into. It's like, take, for example, delay, right?
Where you put your delay pedals, huge.
Right. There's several different types of delays from your bucket brigade to your
the
tape
types of delays,
to your digital right, and to certain degrees, some of them sound better pre and others sound better post. Right. There was a great thing by Pete Thorne recently where he was trying to mimic some Van Halen sounds. Right. Like I think it was Atomic Punk or one of those. Okay. Right. And he's like the only way you get it is if his delay pedal was pre.
Because pre. Okay.
Right. Because that was and there's a whole other thing that they get into that, but we'll talk about that at another episode of
J&J Guitar Show. I had to think about that when you said that. I wasn't ready for you to say
I know. I love asking you questions that you aren't prepared for.
Little deer caught in the headlight moments. Like, I got to think about that. Right? Oh, God, so sad.
Everyone, I'm sure that there's a lot of opinions on true bypass versus true buffered.
True buffered.
Right.
New catchphrase, true buffered.
True buffered. You heard it here first.
Internet craze. Right here. You're here first.
Right. But we would love to hear your comments.
Yeah.
And there's a whole little section down below where you can...
Let us know if you found like a cool things to do with your pedals, like an order that you find like, if you got this pedal, it should go here. It works great all the time. Check it out.
Cool pedals, cool solutions.
Solutions.
Anything you want to throw out to the group, let us know. We'll go through, we'll read those, and we'll try and learn from those. And we don't know everything, but what we know, we're more than willing to chat with each other about and put it on live for you to see. And hopefully you learn something from it. So we appreciate you all being here.
Cool. Thanks, guys. See you around.
Thanks. True buffered.
True buffered, dude. That's fucking rad. No high five on that one. We get that shit going.